Okay.
Because it's
Does this
just
video
the way it is. That's spot on. That's absolutely fantastic. Thank you. Right then, if you are watching this on YouTube, hopefully you've gotten the notification if you are a subscriber to our channel that we are now live with our special guest today. This is an incidental episode of Talkin Comic-Con. We usually do a regular show on a Sunday, but when we have trouble finding times with some people's schedules and if people are just too busy, then we do incidental episodes. That definitely counts for our guest today, considering that he is, at this point, I can imagine, absolutely rammed with Comic-Con prep at point. Anthony Breznican is joining us. Hello, Anthony. How are you?
Hey, it's great to be here with you.
Oh, man. So, yeah. So, I mean, well, first things first, happy belated Independence Day. Hopefully you enjoyed yourself yesterday.
Yeah, I had a good time, you know. We got up to some patriotism, I suppose.
Fair enough. And yeah, what is your prep like for Comic-Con at the moment? Because 2 weeks away, we would be bang into it in 2 weeks' time.
Well, you know, at Entertainment Weekly, we've already been in it for a few weeks. So, you know, we have our Comic-Con issue coming out, and we do a special edition that is distributed at the convention in San Diego. So we've been working on both of those things. So it's already been pretty busy for several weeks, and now I'm actually, you know, I'll be taking a trip next week to visit the set of a movie. I can't really say exactly what that is yet. And then coming back and going straight to the Comic-Con, going to the con. So, so I mean, the prep work is kind of complete at this point.
I mean, not only that, but you are also, are you going also to promote your new novel as well? So, I mean, is that another layer on top of Comic-Con this year?
You know, I was part of a few like short story collections that came out recently. I don't think they're planning any promotion for those, although, you know, happy to talk about those to anybody who wants to listen. But no, mainly I'll be there for EW. You know, I'll be moderating a few panels. I'll be covering some panels. I'll be doing some video interviews and all that sort of thing.
Well, that was going to be my next question as well, because you are incredibly busy, and I can imagine that you can't share too many details because the schedules are coming out as we speak. But you are moderating panels this year?
Yes, I'm moderating two. One is the Bumblebee panel, the Transformers movie. That is on, I believe that's Friday evening. Let me just check to make sure I'm not saying the wrong thing. Sorry, yeah, Friday evening at 5 p.m. And then on Thursday evening, I'm doing the Mr. Mercedes panel. That's the audience channel series based on the Stephen King novels. So I'm pretty pumped for that. I really like Stephen King, and you know, I'm a Transformers nut from the 1980s, so that's pretty exciting as well. And I've seen some of Bumblebee, and I think it's really good. I think it's going to be the best Transformers movie we've ever gotten.
Well, I mean, when it comes to visuals, I mean, there's not a great many films that can certainly top it. It needs possibly the franchise. It needs some bringing some humanization into it, and that's where Bumblebee definitely comes in. Because if there's any Transformer that you definitely connect to, it's definitely
yeah. They're tearing down the movie, and you know, instead of being this sort of epic world-ending scenario that often you know drives the plot of those other films, it's a little bit. I don't want to say intimate because it's an action movie involving an alien robot who turns into a car. So, like, you're going to get battles, you're going to get fights, but also what you're going to get is something that I think the Transformers films have lacked, which is, why do they transform? Why not just be a robot or a robot with wheels if you just need to transport yourself? You know, what is the purpose of being in disguise? And I think this movie, by paring down the story, allows the Transformers, allows Bumblebee and the two Decepticons who are hunting him to actually exist in our world below the surface, below our radar and perception, which is kind of interesting. The idea that there's this alien war going on, and we don't even realize it.
That really takes it all the way back to the comics as well, which I think is rather cool as well in that regard. So that's excellent. Okay, I mean, obviously those are big panels as well, and I know certainly Bumblebee is in Hall H, and I believe Mr. Mercedes is in one of the big rooms as well. Now,
Yeah.
I'm just starting to get into my panel hosting career at this point. I'm doing some at MCM. I've done some at smaller conventions as well. And those are great where you can actually see the whites of people's eyes. What's it like actually hosting a panel in something like Comic-Con where it's just kind of like this dark void in front of you? I can imagine it's almost like herding cats.
It's not like herding cats. I mean, it's a little nerve-wracking because I'm not famous, and the people who've waited in line for, you know, many nights or a whole night, stayed out, slept on the street so that they could get into Hall H on a Saturday. They're there to see their favorite actors, their favorite writers and storytellers, and I'm not that person. So my job is to come out and be sort of the liaison between those people and the audience, or the participants, the creatives, and the audience. And so I hope that I'm asking questions that people want to have answered. But I'm not a stand-up comedian. Like I can you know, throw in a good joke or a couple of funny lines here and there. But I'm not like I'm not necessarily a showman, you know. So I just try to come out and bring my own enthusiasm for whatever it is we're talking about, and try to make that connection with the audience, and then give them their time with the people they came to see.
Well, I mean, if the people who've been watching this for a while, my bits and pieces online, you know that when I first started, I actually tried to do kind of a series of interviews with people called Icons of Con. So I think I had Paul Levitz on there, I had Jeff Boucher. It didn't quite continue as a series, but certainly you're up there because you've been doing this for a while, and you've been doing panels at Comic-Con for a while. You are certainly a known quantity. I mean, what has been, say, a highlight of your convention coverage over the years?
Oh, geez. What were some of my favorites? Well, I guess it was maybe 2 years ago I got to moderate an Aliens reunion panel, and meant everybody in that film was there.
I was in the room. It was a lot of fun.
That was great. And, you know, that was a chance of like, I just love that film, and I all of those people are interesting and talkative. Sigourney, you know, James, you know, you get all of these interesting people in one place who, you know, they know each other, and they've you know, been to other and worked together in the years since. But you know, getting Bill Paxton there, that was the last time. That was I want to say maybe his last public appearance, which nobody knew at the time, but adds a little bit of a poignance to the conversation we had and the stories he told. And he was hilarious. It was not a sad head. He was loving it, and you know, he was self-deprecating and just a sweet guy. Miss him. So it was really nice that when I think back on my Comic-Con memories, that's a really fun and special one to me. But also I did Inglourious Basterds. No, not Inglourious Basterds. It was Django Unchained.
I was in the room for that one. I think I've been in the room for all of these.
Well, you're the man. You're all about town during Comic-Con, so I wouldn't be surprised if you were there for that. But you know, I remember like agreeing to do that, and I get down to Comic-Con, and you know, like I have you moderate these things, and there's a certain unknown quantity to it because you maybe haven't seen the film. The film's not finished, or they're just in the midst of working on it, and yet you're asking some sort of probing questions, things you think that the fans will want to know, and I remember like a couple of days, I get down to the convention and there's a package waiting for me at the hotel. It's from Quentin, and it's the script for Inglourious Basterds. I was like a little surprised that he just. I'm looking at my bookshelves here and trying to see where I may. I think I still have it. It's a little coffee stained and tattered because, you know, I read it, and yeah, you know, like in the age of Marvel and Lucasfilm just trying to shield every possible spoiler about their movie, he wanted me to read the script. And like, I couldn't ask him about things that were in the script because that gives away the movie and nobody really wants that. But it was just kind of cool to get that trust in a way. And also just sort of, sometimes when you know where things are going in a story, you know the spoilers, you can identify them. So you don't accidentally blunder into them, which is a real thing. Even if you're trying to protect the surprises and twists of the movie, you can accidentally start asking about something. And like, you can see the actors or the writer or filmmaker getting nervous because like, I can't really answer that because it's, one of the twists of our movie. So it actually helped to know what was coming and what wasn't, so then I could really ask more about just who are the characters, what's the story, what's the inspiration. And I remember my favorite part of that was talking to Tarantino about, he had a shirt on, right? He had like a little cartoon, almost like Peanuts characters, but they looked like characters from all his different movies, and they were sort of playing on, I want to say, like on a jungle gym.
I've taken it upstairs. I've got one for Monty Python.
Yeah. And I said, I see, near the end of the conversation, I said, I noticed, I want to point out your shirt where you've got like, Mr. Blonde, and you've got, Jules from Pulp Fiction, and all of these different characters from your movies. And I wondered, do you consider all of your films, I know there are some connections between them, but are they all interlocked? And how does Django fit into that? And I think he said Django was like the Jules, something, I forget exactly his answer to this, but it was something like that maybe there was some connection between Django and Jules and maybe even Shaft. I don't know, that he considered them all of a piece. I'd have to go back and look that story up that came from that piece. But he had a kind of interesting connection between how Django may have fit in with some of his other characters.
Nice. And not only that, but on that panel as well, it's always entertaining to have someone who is as mad as a bag of spanners. So Don Johnson he filled that role wonderfully, and he certainly livened up that particular panel. It was a lot of fun. We've got some comments and questions coming in on the Q&A, and then we're going to dive into certainly 2018 and what people have got lined up. We'll go through a couple of questions because there's some good ones in here. Graham Small is asking, have you had to moderate for something you didn't like? Now, obviously, you're going to have to be diplomatic here.
If I ever moderated for something that I didn't like, I mean, I've had conversations not go so well or not be very fun. Yeah. But if I don't care for it, I mean, if it's a movie that is coming out in 6 months that I haven't seen,
it's very difficult. I can imagine you can make any negative connotation at that point because you haven't seen it.
I mean, like there've been one or two things that I've moderated, and later I've seen the film and been like, oh, that's a bummer. Just like sometimes you cover a movie and you're hoping it's good. Like The Dark Tower was that for me. I really love those books. I'm a big Stephen King fan. I was on the set of that movie. I traveled very far to be on that set. It was in South Africa, so I traveled halfway around the world to go. And that was an exciting, fun trip, and I liked everybody involved in the movie. But the movie didn't work.
No, it certainly didn't.
But that's not something I knew until later. And that's not necessarily one they even did a panel for, but it's just sort of like something I covered with and tried to bring some enthusiasm to, and then was disappointed by. So I've had that where I've seen the film later or the show later and been a little disappointed. But if I don't like it, I'm not going to moderate it. I don't need that attention. I don't get paid to moderate. Some people do. Some people get thousands of dollars to do it. I do it only if it's something I care about, and only in my role as a writer for Entertainment Weekly. I feel like it's good. It's good to be there, participating, helping make the connection between, again, the creative people and the fans. And Entertainment Weekly pays my salary, so I do that. But whenever I moderate something for Lucasfilm, a Star Wars panel or something, it may seem maybe I'm getting played, but I don't take any money for that. And so, if people say, like, oh, you're getting paid by them to do something, like, actually, no. Actually, I'm donating my time. But it's good for the magazine. It's good for me to, as a reporter, to be more than a byline, to be be a face that some people may recognize, and that's not for any kind of fame purpose. It's more so that they trust you. That I write something about Star Wars and I say, here's the real deal with these reshoots. You trust that, or here's something, here's a project that I heard is in development and nobody else can confirm it. Hopefully, you just trust that. So that's why I do it. And I've been asked to do panels that I'm just not interested in that show, or I don't necessarily care for the way it looks, and I have turned.
You have a feeling that
it's just not for me. But it's usually usually I only agree to do things that I actually care about. Because again, I'm trying to bring my natural enthusiasm to it, and if it's something that seems just lousy, you know, I can't. I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to be the. I don't want to be the person who introduced somebody to a bad date.
Well, I mean, Solicitor of Smeg is kind of following on from that, and I think you've just kind of answered it. The question was, do you ever go into an interview or a panel knowing that the subject matter wasn't going to resonate with a lot of people? But I think you've kind of, yeah. Well, at the end of the day, you're there to be kind of like the showcase for that property, and it's difficult to judge when it's not come out.
That's a different answer, though. Did it not resonate?
Yeah.
Because last year I moderated a panel in Hall H for a film called Brigsby Bear, which I really loved. I love the movie.
Yes.
It's about a kid who thinks he's living in the apocalypse. He grows up to be in his mid-20s and then discovers, no, he's just been kidnapped and being hidden away. He's been hidden away all this time, but he loves this weird sci-fi Land of the Lost style bear show that his kidnapped father, Mark Hamill, was producing to keep him engaged and sort of teach him. It was very bizarre, but it's very sweet, very funny, very innovative. I love the movie. It's a tiny little like Sundance film, and
it was a strange thing to have at Comic-Con, and they went all out as well. They did like activations, they did posters around town. They went all out for San Diego.
I don't think it was strange for Comic-Con because it was about geekdom. It was about this guy who loved this show that didn't really exist, and he I feel like there was a place for that at Comic-Con, but in Hall H, it didn't play very well. I mean, you tell me, were you in the audience for that one?
That was one I missed. That was, I believe I actually left the room for that one.
That one, and like, look, I cared about that movie. I think those guys are really talented. But then they also got up there, and it was Kyle Mooney and a few. I think his co-writer may have been on the panel, and Kyle was both the star and the writer. I don't think he directed it. I can't quite remember, but I think there was another director, and it just started. It turned into a series of in-jokes between them. And I'm sorry, like when you're in front of 6,000 people, maybe 7,000, depending on how full Hall H is, you really just can't afford to make in-jokes with each other. Like it's got to be about connecting with that audience. And I was trying, and you know, I
think you've also just described the Big Bang Theory panels and the Game of Thrones panels as well.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're making in-jokes about Game of Thrones, that audience has seen every episode of Game of Thrones up until that point. So they may be in on that joke, right? References to the show. I mean, it all depends what you're talking about. Personal in-jokes, yeah, you kind of lose people. But they're into that show. Brigsby Bear, nobody had any experience with. So you're really introducing this thing to people for the first time. They're not already sold on it. They don't already love it. So that was a challenging one. And I tried to do my best with it. But then you also, at a certain point, start to feel like the substitute school teacher, you know, like I'm trying to get you guys to, you know, learn and be excited about this thing. And the guys on the stage are just sort of not feeling it. Maybe they were a little nervous too. I don't mean to like throw any shade at them, but you know, they just seem to be in their own world. And this whole audience was waiting to be introduced or engaged. Yeah. And
I think there's going to be a panel.
I thought that was not a very successful panel.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a panel that may risk going that way this year, which is Hall H. It is on Saturday. It's the RZA panel where he's going to be bringing his film. This is the thing; it's not even connecting with me. I'm trying to even remember what the name of the film is. It's the movies, music, and martial arts panel. I think it's. Yeah, there's just not. It's one. I'm trying to work out where it's connecting. Yeah, but anyway.
Something just occurred to me too. Brigsby Bear, the twist that this kid has been kidnapped and is not actually living in the apocalypse was something they didn't want to discuss, which I understand. That's a revelation that comes about 15 minutes into the movie. The rest of the film is about him dealing with this reality. And I just felt, I get not wanting to put that in the trailers, but you've got an hour to engage with these people. They showed the first 13 minutes up until the kid learns that he's been kidnapped and that he doesn't live in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, that the bunker is really just to hide him. And they didn't want to discuss that. So it was really hard to talk about this movie because all we could talk about was the 15 minutes that we showed. And then all these little in-jokes and gags and like, nope, people just weren't feeling it. It was a tough panel to do. I felt pretty hamstrung by it. But, you know, like I said, I tried to do my best. You can't all be winners, I guess. But the movie itself was great. And I think, like, if anybody gives it a shot, you'll be really enchanted by it and get a lot of...
I'll second that. It's a unique film. I mean, there's a couple that's been out this year. I was thinking they were going to be representing at Comic-Con. But yeah, very simple. I know what you mean. They definitely are geared towards the Comic-Con.
It should have been a smaller room.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, let's actually then talk about something very much positive about what we're looking forward to for 2018. And I know that you haven't really gone through a lot of the schedules because, well, number one, they haven't all been nailed down as such yet. But obviously there are some properties that have been announced. Is there anything that has kind of been announced so far that has attracted your attention, that there's definitely ticking your boxes?
I'm really interested in the Castle Rock panel. Again, I really like Stephen King and I enjoy that show. I've seen some of the episodes of that program already. I'm curious how that goes down. It's weird because Saturday is pretty empty right now. I wonder if they're adding...
Oh, yeah, I mean, I was going to lead on to that, which is this could be one of the first years where it could actually... It will never be just a straightforward walk-in, and we don't have the full-blown schedule as yet. But yeah, seems like a strange one. This one's...
But I also find it's the Bumblebee is kind of later in the evening. Like that, to me, feels like more of like a mid-afternoon panel, but... you know, like usually those evening things are reserved more like when you get Kevin Smith there and it's going to be a little more R-rated. Like you know, maybe it's time to take the kids out and get dinner while the adults in the audience kind of stay behind. But, you know, there's a lot of sort of reunion style panels that I think are the most interesting. It's just a strange Comic-Con when the thing that looks the most exciting is a Breaking Bad reunion. You know, and I love Breaking Bad, but it hasn't been gone that long. And you know, Entertainment Weekly just did its big Breaking Bad reunion as part of our cover. But it's strange to me that's. I think that would be it's amazing that it's there, but that there's nothing else really big that's new, right? And I feel like Comic-Con this year is much more about nostalgia and looking back at things we love rather than looking forward to new things that are coming down the road. So you have some, you know, TV shows that are there going to be hyping their next season, but like The Walking Dead has had a panel there for years now. So I think that'll be a big one, and people go to this convention because they have intense fandom and they want to see their favorite actors on, you know, in the flesh. But it seems like that'll be a big one. Better Call Saul precedes the Breaking Bad reunion. So those two kind of feed into each other. You'll have the Better Call Saul panel and then the Breaking Bad reunion. And I think that's on Thursday. Is that on Thursday?
It's on Thursday in Hall H. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. And also there seems to be very much very specific fandoms. And the programming is very much gearing for people to go and see that panel and then come away. There's not a great deal of kind of cross-panel. You know, it's very divisive, if that makes sense. I mean, for example... go on.
Okay. All right. I mean, one of the things I find really curious is there's no Marvel panel. There's no Lucasfilm panel. There's no DC Films panel that I've seen yet, right? Have you seen that?
No, there is a DC Films panel because Aquaman is definitely confirmed.
Oh, Aquaman, sorry.
So that's going to be, and then you're going to be going into.
I see a lot more
Beasts
animated series and DC TV show panels. I think is it Saturday that has like Supergirl and all of the different DC.
Oh
shows
yes.
Right after like,
Ballroom 20 belongs to DC television.
You'll have Aquaman there. That's right. That's right. I forgot about that one. But that's not
that room is going to be slightly mental. Yes.
But they've really got something to prove. But you don't have. I feel like without Marvel and without Lucasfilm, there, it's Hamlet without the prince, man. You know, it's sort of like you've got to get a couple of those heavy hitters there. How do you close out Comic-Con? The Marvel panel always, you know, although it continues into Sunday, that's the denouement for the con. Really, the big finish is Saturday night. Makes it a little easy for me because I always cover the Marvel panel, and they always drop like within that hour and 15 minutes. You know, they drop 20 pieces of major news. So like I'm like scrambling to keep up, and this year that just won't be. And then afterward, I've got to go back to the office or back to our studio and, you know, polish up whatever it is I've written on the fly, like live blog. And then the actors come through and I've got to do video interviews with them. So that whole part of my convention is gone. That intense.
How do you sleep? When do you even sleep? It's wow.
Yeah. Wow. But that intense part of my Comic-Con won't be happening. And yeah, that's a little.
I mean, the schedule hasn't been announced yet. We don't know what's in that final M block. We don't know if there's anything lined up yet. It's all to be announced. Obviously, the schedules are coming out as of today on a daily basis. The one thing that I've certainly seen over the last couple of years is that magical phrase, the golden age of television, and that's definitely been represented at Comic-Con. And we're seeing that the studios are coming out and the like streaming services like Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, even the other Star Trek Discovery kind of element as well. Are we seeing those kind of switching around and taking the place of the big studios?
Yes, I think Comic-Con is becoming much more of a TV festival than a movie festival. TV is about nurturing a fan base, keeping people engaged year to year, in the downtime between seasons especially, giving them an outlet to express their passion for the show, which they get from cosplay and from getting to scream and wave and get the autograph of or a photo with somebody from their favorite show. It's a chance for them really to represent what they love and what they care about. And the networks and the streaming services really smartly nurture that. And so you've seen Comic-Con become so much more devoted to TV because there's just so much more content there, and also a desire to show more, to be more connected to the fans. Movies have a different job. Even if it's a sequel to something you already know, their job is to keep you at arm's length and create a kind of yearning to see it by withholding, right? So we're going to show you a little bit, and then we're not going to show you anything for a few months. You know, Lucasfilm will go and say, here's our behind-the-scenes clip from the upcoming Star Wars film. And you'll say, what's that creature? What's going on here? But you don't have any context for it. And then nothing for several months until the next trailer comes out in October. So it's about a tease with movies, and with TV, it's a great big bear hug. Come on in, bring it in. Game of Thrones cast here. Let's hug it out. Like, that's what it's about. And so it's harder for movies to generate excitement because they're there trying to show you a little bit without giving away too much. But when there are 5 or 6 major films there doing the same thing, they're competing with each other. So who is able to tease you the best isn't exactly going to get the same attention as who was there hanging out, you know, on the show floor, taking off their masks. They show they're hanging with the real fans, like, and it's you know, this actor from Game of Thrones or whatever. It's much harder for movies to compete than it is for TV. So if you're a film, why go to Comic-Con with that video when you will get way more singular attention if you drop it on a random Tuesday? You don't have to go and compete in the marathon at Comic-Con. You can drop your video or your trailer in the middle of the week in August when nothing else is happening and get all the attention.
Yeah.
That news cycle. And I think
which Marvel have absolutely got nailed, because they've absolutely got that whole rolling kind of, especially when they've got so much properties to deal with, they can just do 24 hours of Star Wars, and then that rolls into Ant-Man, and it's just got this constant roll. They've kind of got that nailed.
Well, when Marvel goes to Comic-Con, remember they showed clips from Black Panther. They showed like kind of trailer. It wasn't the ultimate trailer, but like it's basically like a version of a trailer for Thor Ragnarok, and they don't release it publicly. So there are a couple of like they did this with Infinity War too. They show footage and then they don't release it, and you know maybe you can find like somebody's blurry handheld iPhone recording of that footage, but you won't find it for long. It gets taken down from YouTube pretty fast. I found that amazing that they go and Marvel will feed something to the Comic-Con audience and they don't even care to show it to the public. They're waiting to show the public on their own time. So they get a little bit of buzz out of that. And Marvel's a different thing because it does come from comics. But if you're just a new like sci-fi brand and you're trying to create a new franchise of films from it, I'm not sure Comic-Con is the right place to go to introduce yourself.
Okay. Well, I mean, we've got 5 minutes left before we do have to start wrapping things up. So, I mean, we can definitely lead into a question from Sir Lister of Smeg, which leads into that, and it makes sense regarding what you just said. Do you think the major names like Marvel will continue to move away from Hall H and Comic-Con, or is this just a slow year?
I think they'll continue to move away.
Right.
I think Comic-Con has become so large that it's reached a kind of critical mass, and filmmakers and studio executives see that there's a lot of noise at a convention this size. Why go and be amid the noise when you can stand out on your own at something like D23 or even New York Comic Con, which is still pretty large, but you can show up and be the belle of the ball there. At Comic Con, there's too much else happening that why go and exist among those distractions. So I think you're going to continue to see things pull apart. Lucasfilm has figured out they can have their own Comic-Con. They can have Star Wars Celebration, showcase everything they have coming up, and get all of the attention from that weekend. They don't have to go to Comic-Con and compete with The Walking Dead and Better Call Saul and a Breaking Bad reunion or an Aliens reunion. They can stand on their own. So the bigger things, I think, are going to continue to pull away and find their own platforms.
Fair
and
enough.
I think you'll see things there. You know, if I was Disney Animation or Pixar, I would still be bringing my films there, but I would be doing smaller panels. I remember when one panel I moderated was Wreck-It Ralph, and they didn't bring the actors, and they didn't do Hall H. They did a large room in the convention center, not room 20, but pretty large. You know, several hundred people. And they brought the story artists from Wreck-It Ralph, story artists and writers.
That was a popular panel. That did great guns that day.
You know, and that wouldn't have played as well in Hall H, where celebrity and bombast really is necessary to pump up a room that size, right? It just has to be loud and big and brash. But this was more like if you're interested in story and how a film comes together and how this particular story came together and the video game aspect of it, the retro element, it was a cool kind of intimate panel. The difference between Springsteen and the E Street Band playing a concert at a stadium versus Bruce Springsteen sitting on a stool with his guitar playing The Ghost of Tom Joad for a much smaller audience. Like they're both rewarding in their own way. It's just a different style of performance, if you will.
That makes sense.
So I think you see those sorts of things happen. Bigger films taking smaller elements of themselves and showcasing them. So they have a presence. They plant their flag at Comic-Con, but they don't have to bring their biggest thing and then have it be overshadowed by somebody else's biggest thing.
I think that we're also going to be seeing a lot of them. If they do come to Comic-Con, at the end of the day, it's a way for a studio to make the expense to bring them the talent into town. I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of them appearing at, say, Entertainment Weekly coverage, at the IMDb boat, where the message can get spread further afield, I suspect, as well. Because at least then you're getting more return from your investment.
Exactly.
If that makes sense. Okay, right. I mean, certainly in terms of yourself keeping busy. I mean, I don't understand how on earth you do it, because, like you say, panels, all your the coverage as well, and of course the Entertainment Weekly party. Now, I'm not even going to angle for that because I know that that's just the hot ticket. I mean, do you even get to go to that thing?
Well, usually it's Saturday night, so I get in when I finish my homework. So, like, I cover the Marvel panel. Marvel panel would start at like maybe, what is it, 4 or 5? I forget exactly the time, but it goes on till like 6 or 7, and then I break out of that and I go back and, like I said, I write my stories, I polish up whatever it is that I live blog. We'll do our breakouts, whatever images they do happen to release, or clips, although they've never really done that, whatever new posters, write all that up. Then the actors are getting their photographs taken. Their portraits in our studio. Then they come in and do a video interview with me, like that. Once I finish all that, I can get a shower because I'm sweating it literally, and then I can go to the party. And at that
I mean, if it's anything like me, where I was running around last year, I went to I think it was the Game of Bloggers party, and I was determined to get as much as I possibly could get done. And I walked through the door, and it was calling last orders. So I can imagine it's very similar to yourself.
Yeah, so I get there like midway through, and like, you know, it is a hot ticket event because it's the big sort of closing party. But it is also like a work event for me. So I'm there to like be an ambassador for the brand among, you know, with the editor, Henry Goldblatt, and Jess Cagle, you know, who oversees People and Entertainment Weekly, and all the editors and writers are there. So, you know, I show up, and it's nice to see maybe an actor, a filmmaker, or a writer in a social setting where we can just sort of let our hair down and enjoy the end of the convention. But man, when my head hits the pillow that night, I'm out like a light. That's been a long.
I can imagine. I mean, we've got Yorak Hunt who's jumping in saying, "Love your content." Solicitor Smeg, meaning that you're happy that Marvel will have a smaller presence, so you can relax and party more, perhaps.
Well, that's the thing is, you know, it's
Comic-Con's like a bubble. The content fills like a vacuum.
But I like doing that. Like, it only happens once a year, so it's sort of like, it is like running a marathon where, yes, it's depleting and you're exhausted at the end, but it's not unpleasant. I mean, I'm very aware that there are tens of thousands of people who spend their vacation coming to Comic-Con and spend a lot of their own money coming here and a lot of their own time, you know, just booking a hotel, and they're doing it purely for the love of it. And I'm very fortunate that I get to come and in my role with the magazine, you know, get access to Hall H without sleeping and actually get up close and talk to people and ask the questions and moderate panels. I will never complain about it. I might complain about it now and then to like colleagues, like, oh, I'm so tired. But like, but that's just sort of like that's the little venting of steam, the little bitching sessions that just sort of like you just get it out of your system. But in general, I'm fully aware people love to be there. They spend their hard-earned money and their limited vacation time to come, and so the least I can do is be a part of that operation that makes it a pleasant experience for them. It makes them happy, makes them feel like even if they didn't get to ask the question, I asked something that they wanted to know.
That sounds cool. And not only that, but I mean, as somebody who has attended and seen your contribution, we enjoy what you bring to Comic-Con. I'm going to wrap things up by just asking one question, which has been the hot debate for the day. There's the possibility that DC will be coming. Well, we're knowing that DC will be coming to Hall H. Snyder Cut or no Snyder Cut? Are we going to get an announcement in Hall H?
Oh, I mean, I don't know if that would be interesting. That the whole experience with Justice League was such a mess. I kind of feel like they're not going to want to revisit it. They're more going to want to push it.
Move forward.
I mean, Snyder wants to do it. What I found really sad about Justice League was by the time that movie was ready to hit theaters, neither Joss Whedon nor
Zack
Snyder wanted to talk about it. You know, it was sort of like this orphaned film, you know, that nobody wanted. This this broken thing that nobody wanted to play with anymore, broken toy. And I did not like that movie. And I actually I think Batman versus Superman, although deeply flawed, was a much better film. I enjoyed it more than I did Justice League. But this, Justice League, I don't know. I feel like they need to come in and wipe the slate clean in some way and say,
I think they need to finally get some Green Lantern stuff out there. Come on, let's do this.
I think they just need to say, look, I know you guys are used to things being connected, and we also know audiences didn't love the way some of these films have gone, but they love Wonder Woman, and we hope you love Aquaman. So what we're going to do is we're creating a new canon. Wonder Woman is canon. Aquaman is canon. The other things are sort of like experiments. And now we're going to move forward and put hopefully continue this. This will never happen, by the way.
Yeah.
Come out and be that honest. But they need to find some way to make people feel connected to the enduring storytelling that goes on between these films, the interconnected universe that Marvel pioneered. Without including the ones that nobody likes. So I feel like with Wonder Woman, they need to use her as their Iron Man and rebuild the franchise on top of her shoulders. And she's got good.
Makes sense. That makes sense. It does make sense. I mean, then again, like I say, I think also Aquaman will help on that as well because
if it's good.
Yeah,
I can't say I liked the character Aquaman from Justice League though. So it's like I'm not sure I really want to see that guy, going, yeah, my man. I don't know. I was not sold on that. He had one funny scene where he sat on the lasso.
Yeah,
But this movie better, this movie has a big burden on its back, and
I think we've been saying that about every DC Warner Brothers film.
Yeah,
since they've come out.
Yeah, ever since the Nolan trilogy ended. So
yeah.
This is a big burden, and they've got to do something to sort of I don't know, re-inspire the fandom.
That makes sense. Okay, I've got to go. I'm running seriously late, so I'm going to have to say thank you very much indeed for coming on. Where can people follow you and the Entertainment Weekly coverage? Because I know there's 2 Entertainment Weekly Twitter accounts. So which is the best way for people to cover what you're doing at Comic-Con this year?
What are the 2? I'm only aware of
there's EW and there's another one. Is it EW now? Oh, no, I might be getting. That's Entertainment Tonight, but somewhere else. Anyway, no, EW is definitely the main account.
That's the main thing for the magazine. I'm on Twitter under the name Breznican, but that's I tweet my stories and other things I'm interested in, and politics and whatever happens to drift through my head. But there's EW Live, which is our Sirius XM channel. So I host a show on Sirius XM Wednesdays, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific, and we'll be doing a Comic-Con focused show next week, and I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. Anthony, thank you so much indeed for your time. It's been a pleasure talking to you again. I'm hoping that we'll get you on next year as well as we ramp up for the next bunch of shows. And it's, as always, been a pleasure. Hopefully I'll be able to bump into you at some point in San Diego this year as we're both pinballing around the city.
Well, if you see me, I'll probably be in a hurry somewhere, but flag me down.
What else is new? It's the same for the pair of us. Thank you very much indeed for coming on. Everyone else, thank you very much indeed for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this incidental episode. Once again, we are back again on Sunday with our show where we are going to be looking at the panel schedules once they are now finally released as of Sunday. The Thursday should be out anytime soon, so do watch your social media for that. The schedules are coming, so we'll be able to fill in those gaps for what has been announced so far. And hopefully in 2 weeks' time, we will see you in San Diego. From myself and from Anthony, take care, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.